Suppose a story, not a history lesson. Those are for people who carry clocks in their pockets and patience in bulk. No, this is a story of a planet stubborn as a mule and twice as dusty, built on two truths that will not be argued with: opportunism and ruthenium. Some planets are shaped with care, like an artist smoothing clay. Others are kicked around, dropped, and left to fester. Planet Madane belongs firmly to the second category, and its human history has followed suit. To understand the Ruthenium Orchestra, we must return to the beginnings of the city of Trisaka, which began, like many famous places, as a temporary arrangement that got wildly out of hand. The recently liberated planet Madane was never officially colonized. Instead, it was quietly appropriated by the Pirates and Smugglers Syndicate, the PSS. Like most criminal organizations, the PSS was less a single coordinated entity and more a collection of ambitious individuals who all believed they were the only competent person in the room. They were, of course, mistaken. The first settlement, District 1, later called Greenport, began as a slave mining camp near a rare spurt hole where fresh water surged up from underground channels connected to the distant Northern Ocean. In those early days, there were no drills, no machinery, and very little in the way of long-term planning. Precious ruthenium shards were scattered across much of the planet, courtesy of a meteor that had visited several millennia earlier. Machines came later. Ruthenium was valuable enough to make the slave colony extremely profitable, an essential resource for keeping the empire running smoothly and ensuring that everyone involved became steadily richer in the process. The founders of Greenport traded cautiously and spoke to no one about the planet's location, a secret they managed to keep for several centuries. But time, as it turns out, is extremely good at helping secrets escape their containers. Eventually, other factions of the PSS caught wind of this rich and inconveniently unclaimed world, and then things became competitive. District 2, Radunia, rose under the ambitious pirate king Radok. He brought engineers, not raiders. Engineers rarely stop at improving things. They improve them again and again. Radok understood that the future belonged to those who built first and defended second. Radunia did not merely construct. It fortified, prepared, and closed its gates against any who might follow. Which brings us to District 3, recently dubbed Endursity, a name so controversial that some tribes hear it as a mark of surrender, a sign of weakness. Many still call it simply District 3. The unfortunate settlers, unceremoniously deposited by the smallest PSS faction to work the land for their masters, found themselves in a valley where the Shengho River, which nourished the other districts, simply vanished into the earth. The valley had its own cruel rhythms. Magnetic storms tore through it, floods surged without warning, and in the dry season the soil cracked under a relentless sun. If that weren't enough, Radunia's engineers upstream, ever eager to improve and experiment, reshaped the flow of water and twisted the winds. In short, it was the sort of place most people would flee at the first opportunity. These settlers, however, had no choice but to stay. Into this situation stepped a man called Ku Lao. Little about him can be verified through official archives, partly because records are incomplete, partly because legends are far more interesting than paperwork. What is known is that Ku Lao possessed an unusual understanding of storms, shards, and the strange resonant behavior of ruthenium on Madane. He discovered, or perhaps persuaded, the fragments to cooperate, shaping sanctuaries from violent storms. At first he built only a small one, barely enough shelter for a handful of people, but survival on Madane demanded not only creativity, but also making tough choices. Seasons passed. The valley tribes endured the consequences together. Ku Lao persisted, creating more sanctuaries, stabilizing homes against the magnetic storm season, and gradually shaping places where people could live without being blown sideways every few months. As if that project were not ambitious enough, he also managed to unite the ever-squabbling tribes long enough to persuade them to carve a vast moat around their lands. Part defense against flooding, part defense against the increasingly creative hydrological experiments upstream. The moat, widened and reinforced across generations, still marks the quiet border of District 3 today. Inside that ring, Ku Lao created something unusual, a sanctuary of resonance. Shards were tuned, structures began to hum, and when struck carefully with rods, the fragments produced vibrations powerful enough to shape dust, redirect storms, and stabilize the ground itself. If one listened closely, it sounded rather like music. This was the very beginning of the Ruthenium Orchestra. Radunia's engineers eventually noticed Ku Lao's achievements with the ruthenium shards. Engineers always notice interesting vibrations, and they quickly began imagining their own paths forward. Despite the tribal council's objections, Ku Lao shared what he had learned, and from these lessons emerged the vapomancers, the engineers of phase and fluid and masters of resonance. They built machines that floated above the dunes, powered by nothing more than subtle harmonics. Minds fractured cleanly as if persuaded by an invisible hand. They succeeded mixing the Ruthenium Orchestra into their technology, a collaboration between geology, engineering, ritual, and the occasional extremely enthusiastic person with a tuning rod. Future chapters may reveal further developments, but for now, the story pauses here.